I'm going to be joined first by Dick Morton, the founder, and Deborah Terschnitt, the sales manager of the Hart Pine Company, followed up by James Barton, who is the founder and the chief experience officer at Vault, Virginia, and lastly by Mia Van Beek Goldsmith and the owner of Formia Design LLC. So just so much in store for you this morning. For those who are waiting expectantly for Xavier, Xavier is on a business trip this morning, so here I am. You know, for those of you who never liked my father, Xavier, you're very happy this morning. So, congratulations. Absolutely here. So, we're going to get started shortly here on Today y Mañana. So, be sure to like and share and let your friends know what's going on. You can send me any comments, questions, and we can see what's going on from there. It is definitely a morning, as I always say, for Café con Leche here in Charlottesville, Virginia. Slightly rainy, a good time to just get into your little nook, your little cranny, wherever you like to watch the show from. Get your coffee, your Café con Leche, settle in and enjoy a show as we talk with 3 local small businesses and the excellent entrepreneurs that run them. So we got a lot in store for you this morning as we get started here in just a moment, with all the behind the scenes work that goes into place to make sure that Today y Mañana starts as it should here on the I Love CVille network. Got a lot in store. I can see some people get ready to watch the show already. I know Nidla Zerbi is watching us this morning. All right, I'm ready when you are. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today y Mañana. I'm Alex Zerbi. Very excited to have you joining us this morning on a little bit of a drizzly day here in Charlottesville, Virginia, but that's just all the more reason to stay inside, get cozy, and watch Today y Mañana. So for those who are missing Xavier, he is on a business trip this week. He has done a lot done. So I know a lot of you are going to be probably, what would you say, due to like 30% of the audience is going to be missing him, and the other 70% is going to be like, yes, no Xavier this morning. We're tired of Xavier. But I'm just, he's my father, so I get to kneel him on the show. So we have a lot lined up for you this morning. We have a trifecta of fantastic local businesses that I'm going to be talking with and learning about, and you can learn along with me. Be sure to like and share. Send me any comments, questions you may have this morning. We're going to be joined shortly by Dick Morton, the founder, and Deborah Terschnitt, the sales manager of the Hart Pine Company here in Charlottesville, followed up by James Barton. He is the founder and chief experience officer of Vault, Virginia, and lastly, but not least, by Mia Van Beek, a goldsmith and the owner of Formia Design LLC. So, always appreciate being here on the I Love CVille network. And on the set here, we are always presented by Emergent Financial Services, and we are powered by Aqua CVille Hand Car Wash, by Vitae Spirits, by our friend Miguel at Sirius Credit Insurance, by the Gym CVille, by Castle Hill Cider, and we are always partnering with Forward Adelante, the premier Latino networking group here in Charlottesville, Virginia. So we're going to go ahead and get started right away here on Today y Mañana. We got a lot to cover and some fantastic local businesses to learn about. So I'm very excited to welcome to the show this morning Dick Morton. He is the founder, and Deborah Terschnitt, the sales manager of the Hart Pine Company. Dick, Deborah, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
I'm very excited to have you both here. First time that I think I've had a company that deals in sort of like home, like the home, how you put your home together, how you make it a place where you just really enjoy living and spending time. So I'm excited to learn a little bit both about you. So why don't you tell us about yourselves and how, in your case, how you started the company?
It was a hobby, more or less, and I was farming at our farm in Nelson, and adding on to my house, and needed some I just liked old woods, and but I couldn't find them. So I just started sourcing things myself, old doors, beams, flooring, and things like that. And then I had neighbors that were excited about it, and we just grew from there. I just did one little job at a time. And from there, my son, after graduating, he took a job with Caterpillar, and then after 9/11, he was laid off, so he said, hey, I'm coming to work for you. And it was the greatest thing that's really ever happened to us. So I was just a small one-time show, and then we started manufacturing our own product. Then the company just grew and grew, and we started hiring some really talented people. And we are not a micromanaging company, so we hired really self-starters, and they've just taken the company to a different level.
That's fantastic. And Deborah, how about yourself?
So this is I'm shocked, but I'm 20 years in now. So I moved here in 2002, started working in this business right away, and thought it would be something I would do for 3 or 4 years. And here I am 20 years in. And I was lucky enough to go to work for the Morgan family, and they really are like a family to me. We have a great time. We work a lot, we work really hard, but we have a good time. And it's just a really fun business. The reclamation side of it is really fun. We always try to have something that no one else has, which we have right now. We have Wild Turkey Bourbon Distillery wood, which no one has, so it's reclaimed from there. And then we have a lot of other normal stuff, what we would call just normal stuff, like barnwood and things of that nature, and then a full line of reclaimed processes. But we also import European oaks and do domestic woods and all that kind of thing as well. So we just have a really good time, and they're great people to work for.
And I can vouch for the family-owned business. The family businesses are the best ones, and in my not so humble opinion,
Right.
there. But so I'm curious, what's unique? What are some of the offerings that people can find? What's unique about the Heart Pine Company?
Well, the one thing we do when clients come in, most of our clients are architects, high-end builders, and just people that are building homes, and they want something special.
Exactly.
So it's just basically listening to what they want, and then we're good at recommending some things that would probably work in that place, but it's a reclaimed product that we're working with, and a lot of times it's a new product also, but it's just trying to figure out what they want and what's the best service that we can provide for them. And it just basically comes down to really that simple aspect of following up and doing the best we possibly can.
Exactly. In many ways, it's not dissimilar from almost like a professional service business, in the sense that there's a kind of a trust factor between you and them, but as you're guiding them through the process, it's not as simple as like you walk into a store, you say, oh, I like that chair, I'm just going to buy that chair.
It's not a Lowe's or anything like that.
It's much more
It's tailored.
important, and it's tailored to them.
It's we try to educate people on our products, because there's a lot. And then we try to get a good fit for their lifestyle, whether or not they have pets, whether or not they have children. All these things come into play, because it doesn't do us a good service or them if we get them the wrong product put in their home. So we try to really listen to what they said, as Richard said, and then tailor the product to what their needs are.
To what they're looking for.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So I'm always curious about something when it comes to, obviously there's an artistic, I can't help but look at the designs that you have on your website as an example and see the artistic component that goes into them, because you're trying to find something that looks beautiful with what you have in the rest of your idea for your home, right? Obviously, you as a company are looking for types of wood that you think make the most sense and that do that. But I'm curious also, it's such a logistical field as well, because it's not as simple as, you walk into a shop in Europe and say, I'm going to buy this chair and put it in my gallery, right? There's a lot that goes into it. How do you blend, I guess, both the artistic side, but also the logistical side of providing wood flooring?
Basically finding those unusual woods, and then either whether you're going to put them in the beam form or flooring form. And like Deborah discovered this rack house that was coming down in Kentucky, and then having that theme of old whiskey wood behind that. And then logistic-wise is getting it back to the shop, milling it, putting a finish on it, and getting it out. So a lot of it is just with the people that we have that use their imagination and put the product together from the marketing standpoint all the way to the finished product. And then, working with manufacturing and sales is always an issue time-wise, and when things can get out and when things can't get out. So, we've grown to the point where that was never an issue. And now it is scheduling and everything like that, because we're really busy, which is great. But there's a lot of issues out there now with plyboard, trying to get that in, products trying to get that in, costs are going out of the ceiling, and just our manufacturing costs are going up. So trying to balance that with all the things that are going on while you're doing this house. So our normal projects last very long. Sometimes whatever.
A year and a half, 2 years.
A year and a half, 2 years.
Even 3 in some cases.
Of course, yeah, it's not a
So
quick thing.
it's a long process. So, but we got great people that make it happen.
Now, does the process sometimes work where you have people who will come to you and say, all right, I want this flooring and I want to work with you, but I'm not putting the floor in for another year, so you have to sort of keep logistically.
All the time, actually. Yeah, all the time. We have people that are concerned about when we have something rare, like the Wild Turkey Bourbon Distillery wood, we don't know how long we're going to have that because there's a finite amount of it. And so I had a client not too long ago that doesn't need it for 14 months that went ahead and bought it, and we're saving it for him, and when he needs it, we'll go ahead and mill it, pre-finish it, and then deliver it. So, yes, it can take quite a while sometimes. But we're fortunate because his son does run production. Richard Jr. runs production, and he works really well with sales and does a great job in that. And then we are fortunate to have people that help the salespeople brand within the brand, because we had to create a whole brand around this particular floor because it's special. So it's branding within the brand, which is not that easy.
I would imagine. Because it's in some ways also telling a story in a sense.
Yeah, 100%.
This is not just the story of the company.
Right.
And what we do, but now there's the story of, okay, if you want, this is what this particular wood does.
Right. There's a story behind every project, because where we're acquiring the wood from this particular barn at this particular time, so you try to relay that on also. So, so basically everything we do has a story. It's not strip oak. It's come from somewhere unique.
Which is really amazing, because you're familiar with the idea, I think, of wood flooring, and you figure each company is unique in the approach that they take. But what I really was fascinated with here is that, like, the actual product itself is unique in a way that's not just, all right, this is a certain type of wood. These are sometimes flooring from a particular place and time that once it's done, it's done. That is it. You're getting a piece of a history of another location sort of put into your own home, which is just a fascinating idea for me.
Yeah, and in some cases, we actually brand a piece of the flooring. Again, with the Wild Turkey Bourbon Distillery, we named this particular wood Rack House Oak Number 9. And we actually brand that into a plank of flooring so that people can install it in their home.
So
and when you walk in and you see a floor like that in someone's home, everybody always says, wow, where did you get this floor? So then you can take your friends by the hand and you can walk them over and say, well, this is my favorite plank because it has this brand on it as to what it was. So it's about telling the story, and people love to tell a story.
Oh, exactly. So, homes are places of stories and conversation and life happening, and it's wonderful, like, you sort of add to that a conversation starter in and of itself. Like,
exactly.
Oh my goodness, where did you get this floor, and what's the history behind this that made its way on a long journey sometimes to get to your home?
Yes.
And that's our best advertising aspect of it.
Which I can imagine. So I'm curious, because our audience definitely loves little shout outs here. We got Nicholas Irby watching the show today. We got Elizabeth Miller, thanks for watching the show today. So our audience really, I think, always loves the entrepreneurial aspect of what it's like to be a small business owner. And so I'm curious in two ways, because obviously you're a company that's not just started, but also grown over time, and you've been around for a long while to take sort of those different phases that a company takes. So what advice would you have both for entrepreneurs that might be thinking of starting a small business, but also those who, I know it's less frequent that we get someone who's able to speak also a little bit to what's it like to go through those growth phases? Once you've started and you've made it past that 5-6 years to take the next step, what advice would you have?
Well, it's hard to say, but I mean, if you, in my own self here, I can picture success. You got to picture where you want to be and how you want the product to be, who you want to surround yourself with, and you wake up every morning scared to death that you're going to lose it all. And that's what it really comes down to. You really have to have a passion for it. You have to see where you want to go with it. But you got to be like every minute of every day, you got to say, hey, I could lose it all. So you really focus. You got to stay focused. It's 24 hours a day forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and that's, and you got to love what you're doing.
Right.
That's true. No,
I think the key people that we have, which are many, I mean, we employ over 30 people now, and the sales team, all of us have one thing in common. We all worry about it constantly. It wakes us up in the middle of the night that we haven't done this, or we need to do this better, or we need to change this, or whatever. And production is the same way. We have a female lead in production named Melanie that is a rock star. And nothing happens without her. And, there's just some key people. All of us are key, I believe. But the key people worry about it constantly. Would you agree with that? I mean,
we
concern ourselves maybe is a better word, not worry.
No, really, the decision comes down to my son, basically. But we all sit around a table and say, hey, this is how we're going to approach this. And everybody has input in it. And then the decision's made, then we move on.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, we make a lot of mistakes.
But I feel like a lot of our entrepreneurs have come in and said, you know what, you do make mistakes, it's how you respond
to
and
the
what
mistake.
you learn from it.
Yeah, we try not to react. We try to respond. But to Dick's point, his son is real approachable and very, very easy to deal with, and just takes ideas in and doesn't react, responds, which is key for a small business.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it sounds like also in some ways like having those key people is key to growth. Because there's a point at which, as an entrepreneur, like, you can't just do it all yourself anymore. If you're going to grow, you need to bring in people that not only aren't you, but at some point in this family business aren't related to you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And what kind of culture do you have that brings them into the family, like you said, Deborah?
Right.
And then how do they sort of take ownership in the sense of the company and wanting it to succeed and having that passion?
You have to let them go. You have to let them go. And just...
It's a trust thing, for sure.
And they all perform unbelievably well. I mean, I was running it by myself, and I had some major health problems, back surgery, 2 knee replacements, and I was going to be out for a while. And then we brought Jay in, and we brought Deborah in, and Michelle, and never once have we ever said, hey, what are you doing today?
Because the list is too long.
So,
Every morning, what am I not?
So, I mean, it's, you let them go. And Deborah's extremely talented. Jay's extremely talented. All our people are just extremely talented. And that's what makes us work.
Absolutely, and dedicated.
Yeah, they're
Very dedicated.
totally dedicated to what we're doing. And we try to respond, saying, hey, thanks, whatever. But it's a good family atmosphere.
There's a lot of passion.
Which is
Tons of passion. We're all very passionate about it.
Absolutely, and that's a refrain I think we've had from a lot of entrepreneurs we bring in. Like, one of the key things is you got to have that passion. But I love what you added in the sense that I think you're probably the first entrepreneur that's like come right out and said it. I wouldn't call it a fear, but like you have to have that almost like survival instinct of
Yes.
you can't take the business for granted. You have to work at it as though you could lose it all, because you could.
You could.
And
Yes.
I think all the entrepreneurs sort of understand that, but I love that you sort of put like a word to it and say you have to have that kind of instinct of, I need to treat this as though like what I do today has a life or death impact on the company.
And it does. Every decision we make does. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So before I let you both go, what does the process kind of look like for someone who walks in for the first time, or who calls up for the first time, and what are ways for people to contact you and get in touch?
Deborah, you
So,
created that.
yeah, so when people walk in, we lay out their plans normally. We find out whether they have an architect or a custom home builder, or if they're doing it on their own. And then we just really ask a lot of questions, and then we stop talking and listen. A key component of getting the right thing into the home for someone, where it's about their lifestyle and performs for them for the next 50 years, is listening. And so we really like to have an appointment with them, have them come in, have them bring in their interior designer if they want. All these things are components of it to figure out what they need, not only what they need, but what will perform for them and what they want. And wrap those things together, package up in a really concise way for them so they leave there feeling educated and informed and understanding what the process looks like. It's actually very simple, but we've been doing it a long time. All of us have a lot of experience. All the sales team has a ton of experience. I think the shortest one is 15 years in this industry. So
Okay, so that's
Jay
absolutely-
Smith has 20 years in, I have 20 years in, and so it's pretty easy for us. But we're not pushy, we're educators. So
Which is just so
it's very different. We have a beautiful showroom basically right down the street from you at 609 East Market Street, Suite 102. We have a great website, which is just heartpinecompany.com. I will answer my phone nearly any time people can, and my phone number is on the website. So we're very accessible, and we know what we're doing. So,
Absolutely.
and we have a great passion for it.
That's fantastic. So heartpinecompany.com,
Correct?
right here, 609
East Market
East
Street?
Market Street. You can, and it's walk-in.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then you can give Deborah a call.
Yes.
Anytime. So do not feel shy about grabbing that phone and giving Deborah a call. Because she will
Absolutely.
answer her
Yes,
phone.
I will.
Deborah, Dick, thank you
Thanks
so
so
much
much.
for
Thank
being here
you.
this morning. It's been
Thank
an
you.
absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, thank you. So we'll pull our swaparoo here to our next guest. That was fantastic. Thanks everyone for watching. Jerry Miller watching the show this morning. Thank you for joining us. So we're going to make a little swap here to our next guest, which is, I'm very excited for James Barton as well. He is the founder, and I love this title. I have to say I had to look it up for a sec because it said CXO, and I said I've never seen CXO before. And then I looked it up and said Chief Experience Officer, and I said that sounds excellent. So I'm very excited to welcome to the show James Barton, the founder and Chief Experience Officer of Vault Virginia, right here in Charlottesville. James, thanks for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Alex. It's good to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Very good to have you on. So for those who don't know you, I've been to, because you've got both X Art Park and Vault
Studio
Virginia.
X.
It's Studio X, I should say, not the entire art park, but Studio X at the park there, and Vault Virginia. So I'm a little bit familiar, but for those who aren't, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you came to start Vault Virginia.
Well, my name's James. It's a pretty common name. I wanted to share that I'm married to a woman named Maureen Cowan, who's about to finish her PhD in neuroimmunology. And I have a 9-year-old daughter who's my pride and joy. Her name's Eleanor. But the story behind Studio X in Vault, Virginia goes way back, really, back to 2008. I was traveling. I went to Buenos Aires just to kind of explore, and I ran into a guy who was staying at the same hostel that I was, a guy named Lee, and he was the first digital nomad I had ever encountered in my life, and meaning that he was he was working in Buenos Aires. He was British. I think he worked for a startup in London.
Wow.
And his boss didn't care where he lived as long as he, engineered the software. That was one insight along the way. Couple of years later, so I'm a pretty average guy, and I grew up in Farmville, Virginia, which is about 5,000 people.
I have a friend who teaches there.
Yeah, it's a great little town, but it's very small. But I've been fortunate in so many ways in my life, and a couple of different times I've been able to live abroad and lived in two cities, both of which at the time were over 24 million people strong. And so that those experiences expose you to a lot. And while I was in I lived in Mexico City in high school for a year. That was mostly about soccer, but
Okay, yeah.
but later, and this was after the Buenos Aires trip, I moved and I was living in Shanghai, and I did an MBA program in Shanghai, an international MBA with Holt International Business School. And while I was there, Shanghai is so huge that there are over 200,000 expats, so foreigners living in the city. And a lot of them were remote and freelance and doing their own thing. And this was before it was very common, or commonly known. And during in the MBA program, my campus was also essentially a co-working space. I mean, we even were in sort of these quasi-consulting groups and quasi-startups, to experience those processes. And so we had a really dynamic kind of incubator space and the experience.
Of course, you're not going to have your own office building for a quasi startup. You're going to be in where the campus is.
Right. So that both watching the expat community kind of huddle around cafes and bars, and there was no location where you could find them both working and socializing and just having their needs met in a city that is not all that easy. So those experiences kind of gelled into this desire that I had to try to create those spaces and serve that new knowledge worker, digital nomad, and so many others, and to bring people together into a space where they actually wanted to go. It wasn't like, oh, let me trudge down to the office. It was where can I go so I can be inspired, so I can be around friends, so that I can do the work that I'm passionate about, and I can bring that passion into an environment that's reflected back to me. So fast forward a couple more years, I was working for a medical device manufacturer here in Charlottesville, and was traveling all over the state, and I just still had this bug to do this thing, and that ended up being Studio X, which was the first iteration on co-working for me. Co-working at that point had become a thing, but I didn't see a model of it in Charlottesville that really fit the vision that I had. So that was 8 years ago now, nearly 8 years ago.
I remember it early for the event at Studio X, so when it had just opened. So and now just to see what it's become has been so inspiring, because there's so many people now that use it and connect with it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's I mean that's been the greatest joy in these things for me, as personally, is to really be able to surround myself with the people I want to live life with, and to be able to meet and get to know and understand what people are doing with their vocation. It's super important. It's an integral part of all of our lives. Is our work, And it should be, the places we work and the people that we work around should all be additive to our experience.
Like conducive to making us work better, healthier,
Yeah.
smarter, rather than sort of detracting and making it more difficult to get our work.
Yeah. And we can now more than ever, which is awesome. I mean, people really now have a pretty clear understanding of what flexible real estate is, and co-working is a kind of a household name. It's varied. There's lots of different types of it, but when it's done right, yeah, it's a huge benefit to a lot of people, and I enjoy being a part of that. So Vault Virginia came around when the owner of the Bank of America was leaving in 2016, and the owner of the building reached out to me, and he's essentially said, "I like what you're doing at Studio X. What do you think you could do with this building?" And I mean, I was like, "All right, yeah, let's see." And so, a lot of planning, a lot of a major renovation later, a lot of worries, a lot of hopes, and a lot of great support from the community. And we launched in 2018. And I mean, we've now been going for since then, and survived the pandemic.
And what's it like? So what are some of the things that people can find, like when they go to Vault Virginia? I mean, what are some of the options, the events, the spaces? What's sort of the idea there, and is it different in a sense from, how is it different, I guess, from Studio X?
Well, it's similar in many ways. The main difference between the two spaces, both the size and the way it's laid out, and the architecture is different. Studio X is industrial modern, and Vault Virginia is in an opulent old bank.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a beautiful space.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous building. But the intentions are all the same. It's designed to be inviting and friendly, and we have, so at this point in time, the interior spaces of Vault Virginia are almost all gallery. There's work on almost all the walls. It's beautiful. It's gotten a lived-in kind of feel, which is really nice. We've got music piping throughout all the time. But when you walk in, I mean, it's a grand space, because of what it was built for and designed for, and there are still those elements of the bank. There's the brass railings,
Yep.
and the vaults, of course, hence the name. And so it's a really interesting space to just see and to walk into.
Like a mix of uplifting history, art, just to sort of give you all those different sensations, like grandeur when you walk in and either do your work there or visit someone there.
Yeah, it does have that grandeur. That's a good way of describing it. And yet it's also approachable. We have, you asked about things that we have so many different varieties, and one of the things that always kind of strikes people when they come in. One, it's a lot bigger inside than you expect it to be. I mean, it looks like a big building, but it's 2 facades wide. It's the sandstone historic bank, and then next to it is the brick building, and they're
You don't
intermingled
realize
inside.
until you get inside.
So once you're inside, the tour goes a lot longer than you might expect it to, and the spaces are very different. Each floor, each wing, they're different in their architectural, their era of when they were built, but they're also different because I wanted them to feel different, and for each space to serve a different function in the user's experience there. And so we can do, we have conference rooms on every floor. We have the original bank boardroom, which can accommodate 26 around a single table, really unique resource in town. And then we can have, cocktail receptions and celebrations of really all kinds. We've had really big parties. I mean, if you go on Instagram, you can look at photos of things that we've done, and the Bradbury, which is the space that was Prime 109, which is now an event space expressly, means that we are able to do with them events up 400 person events, standing
whatever your
events.
kind of need is.
Yeah, and rehearsal dinners and weddings. I mean, there's so much range in that building because of all the different spaces and because of the partnership with the Bradbury, and now we have the Bradbury Cafe, which is something that I've been looking forward to for a long time. It's just open.
Oh, that's nice.
And it means the first floor, which is largely a gallery and has lounges and things. Now we have the hospitality that really makes
Wonderful.
it. So it's almost like a little social club down there. I call it the Guild, which is the community membership, and it's growing, and we're adding new programming and welcoming organizations and individuals who want to lead programs. It's getting really fun.
So so much you can do. That's what I think always fascinates. I went to an event there once that was more was for a nonprofit. So I love the combination of you can have your corporate event there, you can have a social event, a wedding or a reception, wedding rehearsal dinner there. You'd have that sort of, I just want to go meet someone and have a cup of coffee. In this co-working area, in this lounge where it's just a conducive environment to have a good conversation. And just there's so the variety of things that you can do in a space is just a fascinating, I think, concept, especially since it was a space in which you pretty much used to only do one thing, which was go to the bank. And how that it's just beautiful to see all this variety that has come out of it because of the work that's been put in to that.
Yeah, we really emphasize flexibility and hospitality, and there are 36 offices in the building. So there's a huge amount of private workspace. There's shared workspace where you can still work in relative privacy, and yet you're still around people. You can still go down to the kitchen or in the break room and have a really good cup of coffee together. Now you've got the cafe to go down and where you can meet up with people who aren't necessarily members. It's really, there's just all kinds of opportunities there.
Absolutely. So I'm curious also about what it's been like for you as an entrepreneur yourself. Just any of the challenges, the opportunities, things that advice that you might have for others who may have these long-standing dreams and aren't sure how do I take that leap?
Well, at some point, if you're going to do it, you just do it. And I recommend a lot of preparation, but you'll never know all the answers, and you will end up having to just step out in a lot of faith and just get started. And then iterate. You have to be really flexible and understand that some things will need to change, and figuring that out is half the fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the constantly changing nature of it, because with a small business, nothing ever stands still. And I remember once hearing a long time ago that with a small business, if you're not growing or improving, then you're shrinking. Or there's no just the status quo, I'm going to leave it exactly the way it is.
Yeah.
Everything's always changing, so you have to just have that flexibility and take that leap of faith at some point.
Yeah, the world is changing fast, as we all know, and the digital nomad that I saw in Buenos Aires in 2008.
He's not alone anymore.
He's not alone at all. Yeah.
I remember. It's funny. I remember as a child when we would visit New York. We used to live in California. It was a big deal because my dad would have to only visit us for like a week out of the summer. Because at that time, this was like very early, late 90s, early 2000s, you just couldn't pack up and run the office out of a different place.
Yeah.
And it's a completely different world now where you can run your business out of so many different places. So then it really becomes, how do I find a space that brings out the best in me? And that, like you said, adds to what I'm doing rather than detracts from it. And places like Vault, Virginia are where you have a variety, so you can kind of see what fits, what doesn't fit.
Yeah.
What kind of, maybe there's a particular gallery that you like, or a particular lounge chair that you're like, this is my chair right here.
Yeah.
That you can just make it work in an environment that like you said, adds rather than detracts. So just what's sort of the process if people are interested in checking it out or seeing if they want to be a member or a co-working space? Is it to reach out to you to they walk in and visit?
Yeah, I'm always available. It's james@vaultvirginia.com. The website is vaultvirginia.com, and there are contact forms on there if you prefer to do that. But it's very easy, and most of the time you can just come in and find me, and it's better if we have a tour scheduled if you really want to have a full tour.
So people can have a tour and sort of get to know the space before they make a commitment.
And people can get day passes just to try it out. People can come in for visits, and people book the conference rooms as members of the public. You don't have to be a member to take advantage of some of those resources too. So and with the Bradbury Cafe now, we're going to have a lot more people discover us just by walking in. And I'm all I love showing people around. I love meeting new people, and so reaching out to me is always an option.
Fantastic. So james@vaultvirginia.com.
Yep, spelled all the way out.
Or just simple vaultvirginia.com if you want to see some pictures, learn more.
Yeah.
And perhaps schedule a tour. And then I would encourage people to check it out.
Thank you.
To be sure. James, thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Alex. It's been great.
An absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank
See you soon.
A couple of shout outs. Thank you, Stephen Kretzman, for watching the show this morning. Carlos Moreno says, hey, James and Alex. Carlos, siempre un placer. Carlos Moreno, a great Latino professional here in town. Been with Forward Adelante for a long while, a long supporter of Forward Adelante. So thank you, Carlos, for watching the show this morning. So we're going to jump right ahead here. Be sure to send us any comments, questions, like, or share. I'm going to go ahead and bring in another fantastic entrepreneur this morning. I'm joined now by Mia Van Beek. She is a goldsmith and the owner of Formia Design LLC. Mia, thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. I've been looking forward to this ever since my brother Nicholas sent me the information. Just as there's so many, I checked out the website, and there's just so many beautiful rings, bracelets, all these beautiful items that you have there, the craftsmanship there. So I'm curious how you started. Like, how did you decide that you wanted to be a goldsmith and then start your own company?
Oh, that goes way, way back to 1988. I started jewelry, goldsmith education or school in Sweden. And I was 16 years old. So that's there. It's like a trade you learn already in high school years. So it was 3 years, and I come out there with the title of journeyman in goldsmithing. And you instantly go into work under a master for a few years. And I applied very timely. So in 1996, I became Sweden's youngest female goldsmith master. So that's like a kind of a long, that's the long story. And
that's fascinating. I never would, to be honest, I would not have guessed that there was actually like that kind of, It almost feels like old-fashioned, like medieval, when you'd have, the journeyman, the goldsmith, the master, the guild, and so forth. I wouldn't have guessed that. That's fascinating.
It's very strong in Stockholm, where the Goldsmiths Master, they have an association around it and do all these old celebrations and things around that. It works a little bit different here, I've learned. I started my business, Formula Design, already year 2000 in Stockholm, Sweden.
In Stockholm.
And then love and marriage took me to Charlottesville. And so I started Formula Design 2004. At the time, it was just creating a little family. So my business kind of ended up in the basement of the house and starting my site and trying to generate the work of working together with other jewelry stores here in town and helping out with repairs, redesign, kind of work through them as I was building my own series of jewelry and or a collection. And then I think it was 2009. I came about my daughter, who was 3.5. She, for the preschool teacher, the little preschool she was in, I wanted her to design a pair of earrings to her teacher because I didn't want to just make a gift that was from me and I make the jewelry. So she made a little scribble and I transferred that over to sterling silver and made earrings. And my daughter was so excited. She made earrings, right?
Yep.
And the teacher started crying, and all the other parents were all like, I want to do this. How can I do this? Can I order from you? And I thought, this is an idea I'm going to take on. And I did, and very short, like about a year after, I think, when I did the first submissions to other sites and kind of try and get the word out for it, it got picked up by the Today Show called me. And it was kind of a shock. I was, on the phone with them, and I said, sorry, I can't do it. I'm just one person in my basement. Like, I can't produce. If you want to put this 2 weeks before Christmas and take custom orders, no. And I hung up, and I was thinking, what did I do? I just hung up on the Today Show. So I was like trying to rack my brain, and I talked, to my nanny at the time. I talked to friends and, colleagues, and instantly we kind of pulled together. So I had reinforcements around me.
Like a little team.
So I called her back 2 days later, and she goes, that's so great you're calling back. We can actually move you a little bit further so you have more time before Christmas. I said, perfect, let's do it. And that was kind of the wild experience of sitting and watching the backside of my site as this is going live, and it's a direct link on the morning show to my site, and the numbers just grew. And yeah, it was a wild experience. And the rings on the water after that was kind of cool to see. It spread internationally. There was magazines, TV show in France featured me. There's magazines in Germany. I've sent orders. Australia, Canada has been in the midst of this. So I ended up, it was growing so fast, so I had to end up moving out of my house. So I joined with the studio with some other talented jewelry artists, and I hired 3 more people at that time to be able to kind of
help with
the production that needed to do from Kids Art that I at that time developed online, and you can still do that. Submit to the product your own drawing, and basically place the order. And then I've turned it into jewelry.
Interesting.
And so, now my kids are not, I've gone through some stick figures through the years and all kinds, and I haven't really pushed the marketing too much of that, and it kind of sliding away a little bit, so that part I've calmed down. I also went through a really kind of a rocky situation where, copycats coming up, doing the same thing. They want to work with you, but then at the same not. And, so...
Which is, this is the challenge for any, business where it's so creative to sort of say, how do you keep it so that your style doesn't just get replicated
Yeah.
as you achieve success.
And I tried. I mean, I could protect my name, and I went through with attorneys and see how can I get this idea covered, and I couldn't because the technique I'm using is not an unusual technique. The designs are not mine, so I can't.
Yeah,
there was
exactly.
nothing to protect, So. And today it's kind of okay. I still have a steady stream, and then it's being shown. Most recently was on Daily Pop for Mother's Day at E! News in California. I got my keychains, and they were featuring those. But then new openings, after pandemic, the online business showed really being a good thing. But then I've always had this dream, I guess, since I was working in Stockholm, to have a store combined with my studio, with my workshop. And when I found this space on the downtown mall, I wanted to have big windows, big open space. I found it in August. I moved in September and opened in October.
Wonderful.
And so right on the downtown mall is where it's now. And this allows me also to show and market, I guess, locally more my own jewelry design that is not necessarily the custom work.
Exactly.
But I think with that, it proves itself really well that having a service of repairs and very traditional jewelry work, it kind of feeds into make people come into the store,
Exactly.
so to speak. So the extra exposure has been fantastic.
That's awesome. So people then come in, and I guess they can browse both what you yourself have sort of designed and created, as well as work with you if they have their own kind of say, okay, hey, I have this idea I have my stick figure on paper, and I really don't know how to turn it into an actual piece of jewelry that says something. You can sort of help them through that process and then create it for them.
Even if you have the family jewelry, your grandmother's rings is just laying there, you don't know what to do with it. Let me create something new for you, your dream ring that you always thought about having. So yes, that's kind of the wild range. I've invited, so far there's 2 other jewelry artists that do work very different from mine, and also friends of mine, and I sell their pieces. And yeah, it's just I'm finding myself in that situation now. Is the time where I can form this to what I want it to be, and it's been really fun. A lot, because it's just me. So you wear all the hats of a small business.
Exactly.
I'm the accountant, and I'm the window washer. I'm the jewelry maker.
Exactly. Yeah, like all those things behind the scenes. I'll never forget the first time I started in business that I was doing like economic research, and I'm like, all right, gung ho, I'm ready to do some research, and then I was like, oh no, wait, how do I make this website? And learn how to write an HTML code. And there were all these things behind the scenes. I said, you mean I have to do all this before I even actually do what I do?
Right.
And it's yes, because as the small business owner, that's what you do. Like you have to, it's up to you to put everything together to have that foundation to do what you love to do.
Yes, exactly. And so, I mean, I wanted to see, I wasn't in the position to say, oh yeah, let me hire people now when I open the store. I wanted to see what the store did. And I mean, it scared me a little bit. January in Charlottesville downtown mall is ghost town. It is.
Oh, yes.
And that was a little scary, but then, beginning of April and warmer weather comes and it completely changes.
I know.
Yeah.
The ebb and flows of the seasons in the downtown mall, for sure.
For sure. So I'm really hopeful it's going well. So I'm looking to having to hire people. Wonderful. So it's going the right direction. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Oh, you have a big fan here. MJ Arquette says, Mia is the best. She made our wedding rings back in 2006.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
MJ, thanks for watching the show. MJ with a fantastic marketing professional here in town, works with Castle Hill Cider as well. So MJ, thanks for watching the show this morning. So I'm I love you have so many different options also on your website. I'm curious, what does the process work for you in terms of thinking up a new design and creating it and then showcasing it in your storefront?
I kind of get into a zone when I do that. It usually starts with I'm coming over some delicious gemstones in nice cuts, and then sitting and starting creating usually generates in more. I don't sit down with a plan most of the time. And then sometimes it's a custom work to somebody else that kind of feeds into a version of it, something different towards that, but, different. And it's that playing around. And when I lose that time, I realize, it's 1 a.m. Maybe I need to go home and get some sleep. And I wish I could do that all the time, but it's not. So it's kind of these three things of my site. My business is working on other people's jewelry directly to them in repair, redesign, and totally custom making something for them. And then it's my own creations that I can go wild and now put it in the store to sell. And it's all online too, so you can find most of it that I have in the store. You can actually find it on my site as well. I'm trying to keep up with it. That's why I need to hire somebody. And then it's the kids' art part that is kind of a constant stream being submitted, especially Mother's Day, Father's Day, and Christmas gifts is big for that.
That's just beautiful. Yeah, it's something special. We have an audience question for you. Elizabeth asked us this morning, are there any kinds of designs that are really popular right now that you're kind of seeing that there's an interest in, or that you yourself have become interested in?
I don't know necessarily design. What I've noticed is that after the pandemic, people actually, they spend more time with the purpose of the jewelry. So the meaningful jewelry is, I think, more enhanced. It's not like you just go in and buy something in the big chain jewelry anymore.
It has like a symbolism.
Yeah, because I feel the pandemic, people had time to think about it. They had time to research it. They could look through their jewelry and kind of take it to somebody and have the conversation. And I offer the consultations where you bring everything in that you have to see, what is it worth? Is it worth doing something with? Yes. What are the possibilities? So I think that's I don't know if it's a trend. I don't really go by a trend. Rose gold has been trendy for a while. What I like with here in the US versus in Sweden, there's a lot more use and interest in colored gemstones, like other gemstones than diamonds. I think Swedish people might be just a little bit more reserved in that way. And I'm drawn to that. And my jewelry...
You can probably be a little more creative with it.
My jewelry is, yes, and my jewelry is definitely contemporary, Scandinavian-inspired designs. I do custom work that could be more vintage and other styles too, but my own aesthetics is very modern and playful, and I always say less is more.
Yeah, I noticed there's like a beautiful simplicity to the ones that are already there, like your own designs on the website.
Yeah,
that's interesting because the shapes sometimes are a little more organic, and then you have just like a very sleek look.
Yes.
To it as well, and I noticed the different colors of the gemstones, and I was actually going to ask that, like, okay, does that sort of give you the ability to sort of say, all right, here's what shape or what metal I'll use with this gemstone, as opposed to with diamonds, there's only a certain amount of things that you can do.
Yeah, I mean, I want to enhance what is the one thing with the piece of jewelry that is important to the person who wants to wear it or to the design itself. So I just want to enhance that and leave it kind of simple. And then, it can go anywhere from being very feminine or being a little bit more masculine in the look.
In the style. Absolutely, that's amazing, and I love the idea that people are more and more looking for that kind of that story, that meaning to it, instead of just being, all right, what's the best combination of, like, it's a big diamond and it's gold and we're good. It's more like, okay, what what is the way it looks.
Yeah,
like,
how can it
say.
be? Yeah, how can it be personal for you to wear it? And so I do feel that I kind of have that gift to personalize it to the person who wants it, which is really nice. And when I decided to go in the downtown mall for a store, I also, I know the colleagues, the other jewelry stores, so I became the 5th jewelry store on the mall. So there's 5 of us.
There's 5,
And we all work very different and very different style, very different knowledge, and we help each other out too. And so we kind of loosely talked like, how can we make the downtown mall the jewelry shopping mecca of Charlottesville? Like if you're looking for jewelry, you're bound to find something at one of our places.
Exactly.
Because the variety of it. So that feels really good, and I was encouraged by everybody.
I always love that kind of camaraderie with, rather than seeing it as competitors, but it's like, no, we're all different, we're all unique, and we're all trying to in this together to grow your little niche industry here in Charlottesville.
Because we are all on the downtown mall, and we want the downtown mall to have that shopping experience, because a lot of it is only restaurants and go out eating and
Exactly.
and the shopping isn't that broad, but if you can find one niche to the shopping, like to jewelry and art, there's more art to it too, but that would be great.
It would. 'Cause I know sometimes it's a challenge for me too, because you go to the downtown mall, let's say there's a restaurant you go eat, and then I come out and I'm like, now what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sometimes it deters you to just say, well, I'll go there and eat, but then there's nothing else that I want to do. But in this case, to really encourage people to say, well, no, come, browse, look at the beautiful jewelry
especially
that there is.
if it is jewelry you're looking for, definitely take a chance to the 5 stores that are on the mall before you hit any of the big chains.
Exactly.
I would definitely encourage that.
Absolutely, because then it stays local. You're contributing to the local economy. You're helping local people to really pursue your passions.
Yeah.
And that's so much better than sending the money away to a large chain far away.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. So Mia, before I let you go, where can people find you? So what's the address of our new location on the downtown mall?
420 East Main Street. It's right across almost from the Nook outdoor restaurant, right next to Big Brother, Big Sister.
Yep.
Is my dear next door neighbor. And online too, if you search Goldsmith Mia, you will, formiadesign.com will pop up
There
right
we
away.
go.
And so that's the search that search engine that I want to
Yep.
have happen, right?
It certainly does. Yeah, you type in Goldsmith Mia, and right there, Formia Design LLC, and you can click the website and check it out.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, Instagram, Facebook, where I continuously post new work and new ideas and things that happens in the studio.
Absolutely. Mia, thanks so much for
Oh,
joining
you're
me this
welcome.
morning.
Thank
It's been
you
an
for having
absolute
me.
pleasure. Thanks so much, and I'm very excited to come check it out now.
Okay,
So I can
good.
I'll go to the in-person store as well after having seen the website.
Okay, great.
Thanks
Thank you.
so much. A pleasure. That's wonderful. So be sure to check out right here in the downtown mall across from the Nook. So you can't miss it. You can even eat at the Nook and then go right across the way and see Formia Design. So just really appreciate the audience this morning. I know I have missed my favorite Xavier, but I know he will be back. He's my number one father. He's the best father that I have. And he will get that inside joke. And just really appreciate the audience joining us. We had a fantastic time this week. Next week, we've got some more awesome guests. We're going to be joined by Jennifer Price of Monte Ventoso. So it is a venue here in the local area, an Italian villa in the Albemarle, Charlottesville area. So I'm very excited. Thanks to Nicholas Erpe for finding that one. And we will also be joined by Ian Glomsky, our favorite from Vitae Spirits. I know he has an amazing new, I'm hoping he brings it. He has an amazing new spirit that he has been working on. I've seen it on Facebook. So we're very excited that he'll be joining us. Xavier will be back next week from his business trip. So don't worry, those of you who are big Xavier Erpe fans, he will be joining us again. I just really appreciate everyone for tuning in this morning. Thanks for the great questions and comments. Thank you, Miguel Torredin, for watching the show this morning. Always appreciate it. Be sure to send us any other questions you may have, any comments about today's guests. Any guests or local businesses in the area that you want to share, you can always find us. You can email me at alex@emergentfs.com. You can also check all of us out, all the Yerpis, at emergentfs.com. You can send us a message Today y Mañana on Facebook, on Instagram. You can check us out on YouTube and todayymaniana.com to see all the shows. Just always appreciate our powering partners. And these are, of course, Aquacivil Hand Car Wash, Vitae Spirits, Sirius Credit Insurance, the Jim Seville, Castle Hill Cider, and always with Ford Adelante, the premier Latino networking group here in Charlottesville, Virginia, always presented by Emergent Financial Services and always live streaming right here on the I Love Seville Network set. Just always want to send a shout out to Judah Whittower behind the camera. We always appreciate the great work that he does, especially with lots of different guest formations this morning. Thank you, our audience, for your great questions and your great comments. I look forward to seeing all of you next week with Xavier back in the studio. But until that time, have a wonderful week and hasta mañana.